Thanks for coming. I'll answer any questions for you.
Open up front row, Bill.
Urban, now that you've had a chance to study Alabama a little bit, what do you think of the matchup? How do you think you match up? And there was a lot of talk when you came here. You wanted to build an SEC caliber kind of team. How close are you to that?
Well, the only thing, you just wish you're 100% healthy. You know, whenever you go into a title match like this, you just wish it everybody, but we don't. You know, Dontre's going to be a close call. You know, I'd say 50-50 at best. It's all about healing. It's nothing that just that bone healing. Obviously, you lose JT. You know, and so that's the biggest thing is making sure that we're, you know, on point mentally and physically, but also just got to keep these guys healthy. We can't lose another player. You know, it's amazing the amount of season end. You know, the Marshawn Latimores of the world, the Evan Lyles of the world. There's just a bunch of. I think there's 10 season-ending injuries that, you know, are young players, but that's special teams, that's depth at corner, that's depth in the offensive line. Those are all areas that we have to keep pushing. They're a great team, obviously #1 team in America. When you watch video, there's not much difference than the other Alabama teams we've studied. Very physical. They have the depth. They roll about 8 to 10 guys in the defensive line, and it's hard to tell one from the other. They're well coached, hand placement, and obviously they're just big guys, big run stoppers up front, and obviously very good defense. The little bit of difference, but it's really not. They used to have Julio Jones when we played him before, and they have number 9, Cooper, and he's tremendous. And when you focus on him, there's 2 other ones that are really good. One that's got our defense really concerned. Special teams, extremely solid group, and so I think it's you know, it's going to be an excellent opportunity for us.
Do you feel like this is a team that can compete with that kind
Absolutely.
of team?
You know, after week 3, probably not. You know, I thought at some point we're building one. You know, I made the comment, I thought it was a year away. You know, and you just start watching these young players saying, boy, I can't wait to get a year in a weight room with them and, you know, get their bodies. You know, Darren Lee, I thought was still a year away. And there's a multitude of other players. You know, our 2 safeties, sophomores, will all be back. The future's bright. Good young players in the program. I think we had 6 or 7 freshman All-Americans, I think Jerry told me, and I'm not sure if any other team had close to that. So it's a good young team that matured.
Front row, Austin.
When you have a situation like what Tom Herman is dealing with now, how will he manage this time? You went through this.
Looks like someone hit me with a bat when he's walking around here. A good bat, though. There's bad bats, and there's a lot going on in college football with bad bats. He's a pro. I really admire the way, you know, we had good conversation this morning, and he didn't initiate it. I did. I said, you know, how can I help you? You know, where are you at? And he's, you know, I got a team meeting tomorrow, and had that frazzled look that we've all seen. So he's really handling it well. You know, he loves Ohio State. He's very appreciative of Ohio State. It's an all good. You know, it's all good. And took a chance on Tom. You know, that's what people don't realize. I'm sure some of you, I can't remember, but I got the question, who's Tom Herman? You know, we're bringing Iowa State's offense to Ohio State, or, you know, and what his recommendation and what people told me about him was correct. It started with Chip Kelly and then some other very close friends that said, you know, look at this guy. And I talked to him several times. His interview was off the charts, and he's been a really instrumental member of our staff.
Does it help you that you've actually been in this situation before?
Yeah, with Coach Mullen and Coach Strong, a bunch of them. I'm trying to think who else. I think Mike Sanford. Yeah, I think there's some other ones that, you know, and the whole key is be a pro. Dan Mullen is a pro, and we won a national championship because of his, you know, partially because of his efforts, and we'll be ready to go. I'm not concerned about Tom at all.
Second row, middle, David.
Urban, this is a little offbeat, but I think you and Coach Saban have kind of shared the anecdote from you as a hungry young linebackers or a coach at Illinois State, and you called him at University of Toledo for an opening. What do you remember about talking to?
I didn't get it. That's what I remember.
What do you remember?
His wife was tremendous, and she. I thought I'm a recruiter, so I find out the decision maker, and I do. That was a long. What am I, 50? That was like 27, 28 years ago, and he was at Toledo, and it didn't work out.
You had it?
Oh, I have a hard time remembering. I can't remember. You know, I'm from Ohio, so I thought I had my foot in the door, I guess.
Irvin, we haven't had a whole lot of chance to ask you about Cardell, and really our only knowledge of him, because we haven't had much interaction with him, is based on that ill-advised tweet that he sent out. What's he like in terms of like his game preparation? Because I mean, he seemed like 180 degrees opposite of that tweet.
It's been a process. He's changed, and it's from the Reed Fragles. I can give you a list of 20 guys that have, but that's the job of Ohio State, job of our coaching staff, and job of educators is to help develop. And sometimes you miss, and sometimes you hit it. We had a couple examples of guys didn't make it, didn't do very well. Cardell's a great story. It's still in process now. He's not the grown man that he needs to be, but he's getting close. The thing that really struck me is when he made a mistake during the course of the game. And he I gave him one of these and was ready to dive right in the middle of me, looked me right in the eye and said, "I made a mistake, Coach, it won't happen again." I said, "Great, go back and tell the offensive line that." And that's a good sign of maturity, that where that kid would have been, heard every story, every excuse possible. But I think he's in a culture in this room right here where there's absolutely if I hear excuse, we can't have that. So he's really matured. But one of the most matured, one of the most difference, what am I trying to say? What you said, the whole 180. I'm not sure I've experienced one like that.
What's your message to this team, too? You mentioned about earlier in the season maybe thinking that this group was a year away. How do you frame this whole playoff? What's your message to them?
Well, we're not to that point. I think we're to the point about, we made it through finals. That ended 2 days ago, and that was hard here. I mean, once again, the Ohio State's not getting easier. And so our kids, Taylor Decker looked like a zombie out there. He's in zoology and, so we haven't had a lot of conversation about it. I talked to the, we're in increments about how to win a game like this. You have to, every day you got to, your percentage goes up to compete and win this game if you have a good Tuesday. And they listen, I can tell we hit a hook when I was talking about that. Just have a really good Tuesday, have a good Wednesday, and your percentage just went up to compete in this game. And that's kind of the methodology we've been using up until we get down to New Orleans. It's just every day is another chance to get closer to win that game. If you don't have a good day, your chances of winning this game is probably zero. And they buy into that.
Far left, Rusty.
We always have to ask this question when it's been a little while, but will you have everybody on the roster who's not injured? You haven't lost anybody to academics or suspensions or anything like that?
I don't believe we have. Kyle Dotson is not going to be with us. I mean, he's part of our program. It was from high school, actually, that injury, and so our doctors are phenomenal here. They caught it, and so he's not going to play. The suspensions, no, and what was it, injuries? Armani got dinged in the, so his demeanor's great. He should be fine. We're hoping to get a Saturday, Sunday out of him in 2 days, Saturday, Sunday, and he should be ready to go. Dontre's the 50-50 guy.
And one more question.
And academics, you said we don't have finals, but all I do is what they tell me, and we don't anticipate that problem.
And can you get a feel for what your players think of Alabama?
Yeah. Absolutely.
What is it? How do they look at Alabama?
Well, I've used Alabama. I've used, anytime the top of the mountain, I've used them. I've used, respectfully used them, because they play very well. Every year they're in a championship hunt, and I've used them. And so there's a lot of respect for University of Alabama and their athletes.
Doug.
Urban, this group of second-year guys, the 2013 recruiting class, I know we talked last year maybe that as freshmen how they might help that team. But when you look at Bosa and Zeke and Von Bell and what JT did, Darren, I don't know, that group that you have sort of this core group of still pretty young guys who are playing at a pretty high level. I don't know, when you got that class in here, did you have an idea?
Yeah, we felt really, really good about that class, and now that you say, I haven't really thought about it, but you're saying those names, those are all program changer guys. So yeah, I mean, I'd have to look at the class to see it, which I'll probably do now that you got me thinking, but that's a heck of a class.
And you're the first really number 4 team in really college football ever that has a chance to win a national title like this. I mean, I know in the old bowl days maybe teams couldn't jump up, but just the idea that if this was a year ago, you guys would not have a chance really to win a national title has, I don't know, do you feel?
There's part of me, because I've been asked about that. You know, in 2004, we had a Utah team that finished 4th. And that Utah team on any given day, so you know, it's more inclusion. You know, I think the more I think about it, you know, I would love to have this in 2004 and take that group of players and take a swing as hard as you can, and who knows what happens. So the more I think about it, you know, it is ridiculously tough on our players' families, which still everybody's going to get tired of saying it until someone does something about it, because that is real. When you take them to a championship game, which is great for our conference and great for coaches and great for everybody, but the families still got to get in cars and hotel rooms and all that. Then we go from there to a first of a playoff, and if you're fortunate enough to win the second one, that's you know, if people tell me that's an average on a normal sized family, $5,000, where are they going to come up with that? And I just worry about bad things happening because families can't go see it. So but I think it's good, you know, and I just go back, I was thinking about that the other day, that we're the number 4 team in America. So is Utah. And they'd be, you know, imagine that at a school like that, with a great school and a great team that should have had a chance to go do it. And Auburn that year didn't have a chance, and that was a great football team. So I think it's all good.
And we've heard the stories over the years, you've talked about it, when you were at Florida and played Ohio State in that championship game, that you worked that underdog angle. You're number 4 playing number 1.
We're not there yet. I don't know. We'll see what kind of team we got. Yeah, that was over the top. Big.
George, is there anything unique about playing in the college football playoff that differs from a bowl game? And have you?
Oh, it's completely different. You know, it's not. You don't even. That's one of the negatives of it. You just worry about. You don't even think about the bowl. You know, it's a Sugar Bowl. Sugar Bowl is one of the great bowls in college football history, and it's all college football playoffs. So it's going to be interesting how that evolves over the years here. But it is, and you know, it's real. I love bowl games. I mean, it's a playoff game.
Have you consulted with anyone with playoff experience, either at the FCS or NFL?
No, just trying to get the guys ready to go.
Front row, Dave.
In terms of finding a replacement for Tom Herman, you'll hear athletic directors say they have a short list of candidates if they're looking for a head coach or if they need to look for a head coach. Do you keep a short list of candidates for offensive coordinator? And I'm sure that's probably a bridge you're going to cross after the playoffs. But
well, I'm crossing it now,
okay.
You know, because you don't want to lose someone because there's a lot of activity right now, and that's the unfortunate thing. But this is a big hire. This is huge. The good thing I've had, Coach Warner, that's I have, you know, I'm not going to release anything, but I got plans. I just want to keep evaluating the next couple weeks. And but no, I have short lists all over the place. Yeah, for each position and strength coaches and everybody.
Back row middle, Dennis.
Urban, following up the playoff questions, there's another whole different game. How do you deal with preparing to meet that? Do you have GAs watching film on their team?
No, that's a good question, and I thought I would in the summer when I started, just kind of because I was asked the question. I said, how are you going to do this? Every available hand in this facility is working for this one, and we'll worry about the next one. And I talked to our coordinators a little bit about it, and you know, I've done it before where during the course of the season, you know, you maybe send a GA to start getting ready for a Michigan State coming down the road or something like that. But this one, you know, it would be a tactical error on my part to have anybody in this facility working on something other than Alabama.
Also a follow-up. How do you explain stockpiling, if that's the word, all these quarterbacks who can produce right away and well?
I didn't know. I didn't know. You know, I think we're a quarterback-friendly offense. I don't want to take anything away from there. I think, you know, we have a very systematic approach to football here, and a guy, you know, if you sit in those meetings, you should know where and what to do. And then we've recruited really well at some skill spots. And I still go back to the development of, you know what, you want to see a bad quarterback, put a bad offensive line in front of him. And we saw, you know, I'm not taking a shot at anybody, but we didn't look very good against Virginia Tech and Navy because we had a bad offensive line. Go look at the film against Wisconsin, that was a really good offensive line. So there's a lot of common denominators, and if you'd have told me that Cardell would be able to manage that 2 years or 3, I said there's no chance. He even said last year in spring practice, I remember Tom and I walking off the field, you think Cardell will ever be a college, you know, Ohio State quarterback? He said absolutely. and I saw it too. So it's player development and surrounding them with good players and making sure that you're not, because sometimes you get caught in these offenses that are changing coordinators, changing this, we're not changing anything. You know, I've had 5 coordinators going to be head football coaches. Next year, there's not going to be new terminology. Those kids are going to continue to learn a system. So when you hear system, I get a little upset. I hear, well, he's a system quarterback. You're damn right he is. He's not a grab bag quarterback, I can promise you that. And that's what I like about the way we do our business.
Back row middle, Nicole.
It's actually basically the same question about, every coach would love to say, next guy up, but the success that you've had with quarterbacks filling in for each other. So can you a little bit more specifically about the quarterback development here that you've seen in all 3 guys?
Well, you got 4. You got Kenny Guyton. You got Braxton Miller, Kenny Guyton. You got J.T. Barrett. You got Cardell Jones. And I'm not sure, that's kind of uncharted waters. We had Brett Elliott go down at Utah, and a skinny kid named Alex Smith jogged on the field and did pretty good. You had Chris Leak followed up by Tim Tebow. So there's been a nice pattern, and I don't want to take away from the quarterback coach because that's where it all starts. But like I said, there's no variance as far as the kid's not going to come in here on or change in spring ball. By the way, we're scratching everything we're doing. That's where I think you see really a slow development of a quarterback when you start seeing offense of the day or offense of the season. In the spring we're going to change our offense, and that's when I think that's when you see quarterbacks really go backwards.
Front row, Tim.
Yeah, Urban, you've known Nick Saban for a while. You've watched him for a while. He's, 13 years older than you or whatever. What is it about him that you admire, the way he goes about his business? I mean, what are some of the things that you maybe even emulated a little bit as you've watched him? He's
tough. He's a guy that's really not a whole lot of nonsense. We have a lot of conversations, and people probably say that about me. There's not a whole lot of, we're not talking about the 1992 Chicago Bulls or something like that. We're talking about, he's a very player-oriented coach, which I'd like to think we are, and very fundamental guy. It's been that way for years. We have mutual friends like Bill Belichick, and I just admire guys like that, and he wins.
And the other thing, you guys both seem to approach recruiting the same way, sort of like a bulldog. Did you take that from him too? I mean, you're as involved in recruiting as any head coach out there.
I think that came from a long time ago. I love recruiting. I love recruiting good players, good guys. I love it. Can't get enough of it when you're good guys, and so you're selling something you love. So that's been that way, and I had chances or had conversations going to pros back years ago and all that, and it's to take that where some guys, I can't wait to get away from recruiting. I never looked at it that way.
Far right, Clay.
Just making sure Tim Tebow's your next quarterback coach. What did you want your team to get out of his?
He came here for ESPN, and I love Tim. Tim's a champion. Tim's a 2-time national champion. He's I have coached 2 players that have that same bizarre work ethic and toughness, and it's John Simon and Tim. And that's not being demeaning to Zach Boren or some of these other great players. It's different. And the players know that. It's different. And I have this, very few jerseys hanging in my office, and this is one of them, just because of his relentless pursuit of excellence and the way he treats people. And so it was great conversation with our players, and kind of on the spot, ESPN brought him in just for a conversation, and I said, do you mind? And he was great.
You think he'll continue to stay in TV? Does he want to get?
He wants another shot at playing.
He does?
Yeah. I hope he gets it. If not, I think he's going to continue what he's doing.
Last couple questions. Ari, middle.
Speaking of loving recruiting, you obviously want to find a quarterback coach and the coordinator that can replace Tom, but as you're well aware, he had a lot of success in Texas.
Yeah.
And when you go,
big part of the thought.
And you look at the short list that you talked about, how important is it to get somebody who recruits that area, or are you comfortable rejiggering your recruiting territories?
No, I'm playing with that a little bit. That's a great question. Texas is Texas now, and I'm trying to think of the players that I've, David Nelson and Keyston Moore, or at Florida, and then I'm sure I'm going to miss someone. But Texas guys, I don't want to stereotype them, but they're usually very well coached. They love football. They've been raised a little bit like, a lot like Ohio. Kid in Ohio, you're going to play football normally. Kid in Texas, you're probably going to play. So I've always loved to go down there, and I love the high school coaches, and so we need to, and that's part of the job description, is be able to go get a kid out of Texas.
Okay, so that's like something that
Right now it is, unless, like you said, I rejiggle and move things around, but I'd rather not. I'd rather get a guy that has some footprint, if I can. But one thing about recruiting, if you're a great recruiter, I'm going to, we have some great recruiters on our staff. I would stick them in Texas and they'll go get some players.
And far left, Matt.
Just wondering, what's the key to, and you deal with this every year, there's a bowl game, but you got 3 more practices here, and then the guys go home, and then it's go time. What's the key when you're preparing a team for a game like this, that they're ready 8:30 on New Year's night? What do you have?
Great question. And I asked that question to Coach Holtz in 2006. That was my first time as a head football coach, the extended time for a bowl. It was like 40 days. And he kept saying to me, he says, you don't have to play that game. So for us there's not a lot of rah-rah going on right now. It's all about taking care of business. And we break it into 3 phases. Phase 1 are fundamentals and conditioning. Phase 2 is game plan, installation, and phase 3 is game week. So the way a young mind, even an old mind works, if I said, hey, by the way, we got 18 or whatever practices are, I don't even know how many practices we are. All I know is we're in phase 2. We have 2 left because I'm going to give them tomorrow off. Mentally not off, we're going to meet, but I'm not going to run them or we're not going to practice. So I want to make sure that the 9 coaches, our strength coach, and most important, our players into that mentality, because you can't handle that, because there's too much going on. So it's very compartmentalized, and that came from Lou Holtz back in 2006. Do not play the game. They don't have to play the game today. I don't even think about the game yet. There'll be the right time, and that's going to be once we hit New Orleans.
What's your message to them when they get those 5 days at home?
Well, it's 4.5 days that we're going to give them because we're going to come in here and practice. They go home. It'll be a hard practice, and be a pro. You're playing for the championship of college football. I would if I'm worried about curfew, everybody, well, what's a curfew? If I have to worry about that, we're not going to win. And there's too much investment around here. So the message will be, hit your body weights, be in good shape. I don't expect you to run and all that, but be mentally and physically in the right frame of mind when you get back, and be ready to go. And I anticipate they will.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.